I'm a member of the greatest generation, so labeled by Tom Brokaw. There's a reason for this labeling. Each of us has his own story. Here's mine. It was a beautiful spring evening in Chicago, mid-April 1946. The war was over, all was right with the world. I was going to school on the GI Bill of Rights, studying integral calculus. That evening, I was having a late evening snack with my high school friends, Fairmark and Grosskopf. We were in a cafeteria at Rush Street in Chicago. We had window seating. All of a sudden, there was a rapping at the window. It was Liebman, accompanied by his wife, pointing his finger at me, saying, "There's the man that saved my life." The two of them came into the cafeteria, and Liebman told his story. Sure enough, I had saved his life. To see how this happened, we have to turn the calendar back to the first week in December of 1943. On the first week of December of 1943, I finished basic training at Camp Walters in Mineral Wells, Texas. I was trained as an anti-tank gunner. They were keeping me over for 2 weeks in order to get glasses. Those individuals that trained with me and did not need glasses were sent immediately to Army divisions that were staging for the upcoming invasion of Europe. During the ensuing 2 weeks, the staging for D-Day was completed, and I was sent to the South Pacific instead. Lucky for me, for I ended up in Bougainville with the 132nd Infantry Anti-Tank Company, 1st Squad, 2nd Platoon. The anti-tank companies on the South Pacific Islands were mainly reserve infantry outfits because the Japanese did not use tanks, and that meant a difference. Those individuals that trained with me and were sent to the European theater were almost all uniformly killed and or severely wounded, and so I was fortunate that I was sent to the South Pacific instead. Now, the 132nd Infantry was part of the Americal Division, and Bougainville was part of the Solomon Islands. Guadalcanal is also part of the Solomon Islands, and the Americal Division served also on Guadalcanal. And the Americal Division was part of the United States Army, and both the United States Army and the United States Marines gave the Japanese Army a severe trouncing on both of these islands. You have to understand, the Imperial Japanese Army had never been defeated in land battles before. And the fact that they had lorded it over the Russians and the Chinese for years, and they wreaked havoc wherever they went. But we gave them a severe beating on the islands of Bougainville and Guadalcanal. It was on Bougainville that I received the Expert Infantry Badge in September of 1944 for successfully surviving a Japanese banzai attack. In November of 1944, when we were scheduled to move from Bougainville to Leyte in the Philippines, it turned out that the anti-tank company needed some more combat medics, and I was asked to become a combat medic. Now, becoming a combat medic is dangerous business because you have to go and help wounded American soldiers. You have to help them and keep them from going into shock. That was the main job of a combat medic, and so it was a dangerous thing, rescuing wounded American soldiers. But I decided that I would take the position, for it meant that I would no longer have to stand guard duty or do KP. And so I took the job, danger and all. On March 26, of 1945, the 132nd Infantry Regiment made a beachhead on the island of Cebu in the Philippines. I was on the 6th wave. I was assigned to work with the anti-tank company, and we were very lucky. We did not have any casualties on the beachhead, and we also made it successfully inland with no casualties. Now, this was pretty remarkable because the beach had been heavily mined, and there were many casualties. A few days after we had landed and gone inland, I had to return to the beach in order to get some medical supplies. I saw the men from K Company, and I said, "How did K Company make out on the beachhead?" "Great," they said. "We lost only one man." And I said to them, "How's my friend Kasner?" Their faces go white. Kasner was the man, and he had stepped on a landmine. And you will find the name of William Kasner listed among the American dead that are American soldiers that are buried in the American cemetery in northern Luzon. You can check this on the internet. I did. A few days later, we were on the front. A few days later, we were on the front lines, and we were asked to relieve I Company on the front lines. I was digging a foxhole on the side of a hill when all of a sudden I heard the shout, "Medics! Medics! Medics!" I took my medical kit and ran 150 yards, and there I found 4 men from my company sprawled on the ground. They had all been hit by Japanese mortars. I put sulfanilamide on their wounds, and I bandaged them up, and I gave them each a shot of morphine, and I covered them with blankets, and I said to them, "Take it easy, you guys will be out of here soon." And I stayed with them. As I said earlier, what I had to do was keep them from going into shock. And the truck came along, and I helped load them on the truck, and the truck took them away to a medical aid station. Then I returned to my foxhole. At that time, one of the guys from the 1st Platoon in the anti-tank company told me, "You deserve a medal for what you did." A few minutes later, they brought me another man. He was all green with picric acid. He had suffered a direct hit with the Japanese mortar. And I cut up his pant legs to see if I could stop the bleeding, but I couldn't. So instead, I just gave him a shot of morphine, and they came and took him away, and he died a half hour later in the medical aid station. We were still on the front lines for a few days later when Liebman came to me, and we were helping some companies from the 3rd Battalion, and Liebman was in one of them, and he came to me and he said, "My company commander wants me to go out and man a machine gun nest 100 yards in front of the front lines, in front of our lines. He wants me and 2 other guys to go out there," and he says, I just don't feel good and I don't want to go out there." And I had known Liebman from religious services, and that's why he came to me. And so I said to him, "There's nothing I can do for you except take your temperature." So I said, "If it's over 101 degrees, you do not have to do any military service." So I took his temperature, and it was 102 degrees. So I went to his company commander and I said, "This man has a temperature of 102 degrees. And so the company commander relieved him from doing military service, and he did not have to go out there on the machine gun nest 100 yards in front of the lines.
We have 45 seconds. Can you finish?
Oh, okay. And so it turned out that the 3 guys that were out there on the front lines got killed, and that's how I saved his life. Now this illustrates a situation which is called chaos in mathematics. Chaos in mathematics means that if you change the events a little bit, the outcome is totally different. And what happens is, if I hadn't needed glasses, I would have been asked to go to the European theater. I probably would have been killed. If Liebman had not known me, or did not have a fever, he would not have made it. Likewise, if I had worked with the 3rd platoon instead of the 1st platoon, I wouldn't be here today. And so the reason is because the 3rd platoon walked into a Japanese ambush, and I would have been in the middle of the column with my friend Rebus, who was a medic, and there was a radio man, and he was killed, and I would have been killed also. But lucky for me, I was working with the 1st platoon. So with that, I will end my story.